Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi slammed Pakistan, referring to it as a terror export factory at the Bharat Ki Baat event in London. He added that 2016 surgical strikes were aimed at sending an unequivocal message to the neighbouring country. Touching upon the recent cases of child rape, which has caused a furore in the country, Prime Minister Modi said that the rape is a matter of shame for the entire society. He also urged people and political leaders to refrain from politicizing the rape cases. Hundreds of noisy protesters greeted Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi when he arrived in London, demonstrating over a rising tide of sexual violence at home, including 2 particularly brutal rape cases. The demonstrators held placards reading "Modi, go home" and "We stand against Modi's agenda of hate and greed." Britain's Prime Minister Theresa May welcomed Canada's Prime Minister Justin Trudeau and New Zealand's Prime Minister to Downing Street on the sidelines of 2018 Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting. Britain's Queen Elizabeth met with Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau at Buckingham Palace. She sat down with the leaders individually for a brief meeting on the sidelines of the Commonwealth Heads of Government Summit, which is being held in London. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau said in an interview that Canada and Britain will be able to quickly pursue a new trade deal after Brexit. Speaking about US-Canada relations and President Donald Trump, Trudeau said that the president prides himself on a level of disruption and unpredictability that is challenging. Britain's upper house of parliament inflicted an embarrassing defeat on Theresa May's government, challenging her refusal to remain in a customs union with the European Union after Brexit. The House of Lords voted 348 to 225 in favour of an amendment to her Brexit blueprint, the EU withdrawal bill. German Chancellor Angela Merkel condemned anti-Semitism in Germany and said that the government would do everything it could to win the battle against it. The Chancellor made the comments after police said that they had launched an investigation after 2 men wearing Jewish skull caps were reportedly attacked and insulted in Berlin on Tuesday. US President Donald Trump preparations were advancing for a first-time ever summit with North Korea after CIA Director Mike Pompeo visited Pyongyang and formed a good relationship with its leader Kim Jong-un. Donald Trump said that negotiations were underway for the release of 3 Americans held as prisoners in North Korea. Trump also said that he hoped a planned meeting with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un to discuss denuclearization that would be successful, but that he would talk out of it was not. US President Donald Trump said that he hopes the ongoing probe into Russian meddling in the 2016 US election, led by Special Counsel Robert Mueller, will soon come to an end. US President Donald Trump and Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe said that they had agreed to intensify trade consultations between the 2 longtime allies. Trump had said earlier that he thought the United States would soon be able to trim its trade deficit with Japan and that Tokyo planned to order large numbers of US aircraft. The Speaker of the Russian Upper House of Parliament said that Moscow's response to US sanctions will be targeted and painful. The United States this month added several Russian firms and officials to sanctions blacklist. Moscow says that those sanctions are unlawful and has warned that it will retaliate. US Ambassador to the United Nations Nikki Haley said that her relationship with US President Donald Trump was perfect amid friction between Haley and the White House. As US President Donald Trump and Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe held talks at Trump's Mar-a-Lago estate, Melania Trump and Aki Abe toured the nearby Flagler Museum. The museum was once the home of Henry Morrison Flagler, one of the nation's leading industrialists of the early 20th century. U.S. Defense Secretary Jim Mattis said that a delay in chemical weapons investigation by a UN delegation in Syria was unfortunate, but that it resembled similar previous behavior by the Assad regime to conceal evidence. France begins the process of stripping Syrian President Bashar al-Assad of his Legion of Honor award, the country's highest distinction. Assad was awarded the honor in 2001 by the French President Jacques Chirac. A survivor of a suspected chemical attack in Duma recounts the incident and says that the gas from the attack left her unable to breathe and made her eyes well up with tears. She added that one of her two young daughters turned blue in the face because she already had lung problems from previous shelling. Several hundred Syrians who have lived for years as refugees in Lebanon left for their home country in a rare case of a mass return of those who left the country since the Syrian civil war began in 2011. Over 500 people, including children and the elderly, left the Sheba area in southeast Lebanon in 15 buses for Syria. Miguel Diaz-Canel has been proposed in Cuba's parliament as the sole candidate to replace Raul Castro as president. This will make him the island's first non-Castro leader since the 1959 revolution. Castro is stepping down after 10 years in office. President Tayyip Erdogan announced that Turkey's presidential land and parliamentary elections would be brought forward to June 24, more than a year earlier than planned, saying that the country urgently needed to make the switch to an executive presidency. Ecuador's President Lenin Moreno said that his country will suspend its role as a guarantor country at peace talks between the Colombian government and the National Liberation Army rebels as long as the guerrilla attacks continue. A car bomb hit the convoy of the chief of the staff of the Eastern Libyan military outside Benghazi, killing one person and wounding at least two other people. Though he himself survived, Abdelrazak Naturi was traveling from Benghazi to his base in Al-Marj when his convoy was hit some 20 kilometers outside Benghazi. Opposition protests continued in Armenia as people expressed their dissatisfaction with the appointment of Sir Sargsyan as the country's new prime minister. 68 people were arrested during the protests. Sixteen people, including 6 police officers, were killed in 2 shootouts in the Mexican resort city of Zihuatanejo. 10 individuals who were part of a group of criminals were killed in an initial shootout with police and army soldiers. Later, 6 state police officers were killed in a second incident not far from the initial shootout. Three men burst into Nigeria's Senate and snatched the legislature's ceremonial mace. These men entered the chamber, picked up the mace and left with it in less than two minutes. The chairman of Senate Committee on Media and Public Affairs accused a lawmaker of leading the men to steal the mace. The Basque militant group ETA will announce its final dissolution early next month. During a campaign that lasted nearly half a century, ETA killed more than 850 people in a vain effort to create a Basque state in northern Spain and southwest France. But it declared a ceasefire in 2011 and handed over its arms a year ago. An audio recording captures the conversation between Southwest Flight 1380 pilot and an air traffic controller during the moments before the plane made an emergency landing after its engine blew up in midair, killing a passenger. The wrecked engine of the jet was being examined on Wednesday by US air safety officials. A private funeral for former U.S. First Lady Barbara Bush, the only American woman to see her husband and son both sworn in as president, will be held on Saturday at a Houston church where her family has been members since the 1950s. Now, Bush died on Tuesday at the age of 92. Former U.S. First Lady Barbara Bush was her feisty self in her final days. Her son, former U.S. President George W. Bush, said on Wednesday. Bush, at an event for his presidential center, shared a story about his mother gesturing to him and then turning to her doctor and asking the doctor if she wanted to know why he turned out the way he did. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu lit an honorary torch on Wednesday night, marking Israel's 70th Independence Day in a spectacular ceremony in Jerusalem and opening a day of celebrations. Now, before lighting the torch, Netanyahu made a speech outlining Israel's achievements. A New York nanny was found guilty of stabbing to death 2 children in her care at their luxury Manhattan apartment. In a case that drew national headlines, a jury unanimously rejected the insanity defense of Yoselin Ortega, whose lawyer said that she hallucinated a devil's order to kill the children herself when she plunged a kitchen knife into them and left their bloody bodies in a bathtub. Saudi Arabia launched its first commercial movie theatre, ending its nearly 40-year ban on cinemas. This under a push by the Crown Prince to modernize the deeply conservative Muslim kingdom. Saudi dignitaries gathered at a converted symphony concert hall in Riyadh to watch Marvel's superhero movie Black Panther. Tickets will go on sale today for the first public viewings on Friday. Tourism industry leaders from throughout the world opened their annual global summit on Wednesday in Buenos Aires. The day started with Argentine President Mauricio Macri receiving recognition as the World Travel and Tourism Council's world leader. China has proposed construction of India-Nepal-China economic corridor through the Himalayas. This as Beijing seeks to expand its influence over the new Nepalese government. The proposal came after Nepal's foreign minister Pradeep Kumar held talks with his Chinese counterpart Wang Yi. The Queen Elizabeth II ocean liner has been given a new lease of life as floating hotel in Dubai. 10 years after the Gulf Arab Emirate brought it for $100 million, state-owned Dubai World bought the Queen Elizabeth II from Cunard Line in 2007. But the 2008 financial crisis delayed any plans for the 40-year-old vessel. The last of Queen Elizabeth's corgi dogs who appeared with the British monarch for a film segment during the 2012 London Olympic Games opening ceremony has died at the age of 14. Willow, who was the 14th generation descended from the first corgi Susan, owned by the 91-year-old Queen since her 18th birthday, was put to sleep at Windsor Castle on Sunday. Microsoft founder Bill Gates, along with business leaders and ministers from malaria-affected countries, has pledged that $3.8 billion to drive research and innovation and improve access to malaria prevention and treatments ahead of a summit in London. A new report indicates that more than 95% of the world's population is breathing unhealthy air. The report finds that India and China jointly contribute to over 50% of global deaths attributed to pollution. A highly drug-resistant strain of typhoid is spreading in Pakistan that has killed at least one person and affecting around 850 others. Reports suggest that the bug was first identified in November 2016 in Hyderabad. Professor Jay Levy, the doctor who co-discovered the human immunodeficiency virus that causes AIDS 35 years ago, said that while the search for a cure is ongoing, the focus must be on education to stop people getting infected. A Chinese art troupe visited the Democratic People's Republic of Korea from Friday to Tuesday for the April Spring Friendship Art Festival, which is an important cultural event between the two countries after Kim Jong-un visited Beijing March 25 to 28. Fashion designer Manish Malhotra took to social media and shared a picture of Sridevi and Bonnie Kapoor from a tribute that he penned for Vogue India magazine. In the article, he wrote, and I quote, "She went from iconic actor to dear friend," unquote. He further wrote, "I want the world to remember her as who she was, an iconic actor, an exceptional person," unquote. Filmmaker Karan Johar has announced his upcoming production Kalank, starring actors Alia Bhatt, Varun Dhawan, Madhuri Dixit and Sanjay Dutt. The film, previously rumored to be titled Shiddat, will also star Sonakshi Sinha and Aditya Roy Kapoor. Directed by Abhishek Varman, the film is scheduled to release on April 19, 2019.